Welcome into the crossover. He's not here. He's at the home studio. KD, the NBA veteran. He'll be joining us very, very shortly. I'm your boy, Tene Tony. We've got a lot of great stuff on the show today. I wanted to talk to KD about the Jaden Ivey situation. A lot of stuff to unpack there. He has a lot of great insight. We'll get to the Wemby conversation for MVP. What else does he have to do? He's doing everything he possibly can to win the award. Luka's right on his tail. A lot of cool stuff on the show today. So make sure you're tapping in, you're locking in wherever it is that you listen on Spotify, on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're sharing with people. Make sure that you're getting notifications. Hit that little bell on YouTube so you can see when we post new content that comes out every Monday, every Thursday. Also, if you're local in town, check out South Florida's own WDFL Channel 18, where you can watch us on TV. And if you're not in South Florida, download the app and go hit us up there. Show some love to the WDFL app. With all that, let's start the show.
Inside the game. Yeah. Turn it up. Welcome to the crossover. Kia doing it. 10-day tuning. Let's talk NBA.
A little bit of a different setup here. We got KD from the home studio up north, and your boys down here in the Miami studio. KD, a lot of stuff to get to today on the program. We got MVP talk with Wemby. We've got a very interesting situation that I wanted to get your insight on and your commentary on, which was the Jaden Ivey situation. It's been taking the NBA by storm. A lot of people are not really understanding how to talk about it. I don't think a lot of people understand maybe what's been happening with Jaden Ivey in the background for the last year, the last 6 months. Obviously since the trade deadline where he was moved over to the Chicago Bulls. I just want to lay the floor for you to be able to kind of see what you thought when you saw the IG Live, when you saw the comments, when you saw the release, when you saw the subsequent news that followed, and kind of the stories that have been leaking out since the cut of Jaden Ivey by the Chicago Bulls. So with all that, what did you think about the whole situation?
So first off, I think the situation, man, is a real situation. I definitely believe that he's had a spiritual awakening. But also I think there's some trauma like underneath there that is kind of coming out and manifesting in this moment. Look, I've been there. I had to check myself into a mental institution, and some of the things that he went through that he spoke about, I went through those as well. And I didn't have the understanding of what it was that I was feeling as I was going through that moment, right? And so a couple things can be true at the same time, right? You can be traumatized and push things down and go through adversity, whether it's in your profession, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's battling addiction, whether it's being abused as a child. All those things are still right there, right? And you can be triggered, and then those things can come out and spin out of control. And so what I believe is that I believe he, one, is dealing with some trauma, which is, normal, right? But how you handle that, are you getting the right help? Are you getting the right attention to detail to be able to understand what it is that you're going through? And then two, I think one of his ways of getting through it was through his faith. Mm-hmm. And I really respect that because, look, that's the foundation for a lot of Christians, right? And I also think that like from a professional level, bringing that to the workplace, you will be judged, right? Whether you bring politics, whether you bring religion, whether you bring, toxic masculinity, bullying, all those different things to the workplace, you will have some issues.
Yeah, I think it's a tough part to kind of parse when you're looking at an extreme belief, and not extreme, but when you are so deep into your faith that maybe mixed with, we're not psychologists, we're not doctors, we cannot evaluate somebody from where we are in South Florida, but knowing what you've gone through, knowing your experiences, obviously me knowing stuff on my end, it's like, man, I really hope that he has sound people around him that are helping him, because I think that's one of the biggest things is when you listen to people, whether they be right, whether they be wrong, however they're speaking into your life, I always hope that, especially guys in this arena, no pun intended, have sound people in their corners. Obviously, his mom is the coach of the women's basketball team at Notre Dame. Like, he comes from a pedigree of a good family, of a basketball family. And man, I just really hope that he was seeking counsel with people that are his elders and people that maybe are his elders in the faith that could have also told him, hey, look, this is the way to do this. I understand what you're saying. The way to do this is a better way than the way that you went about it.
Yeah. And we do have to be very careful with how we, kind of word this, because it is very sensitive topic, right? And somebody's future and livelihood is on the line. But I would say that it's two-parted, right? Because a lot of times in faith, sometimes you can separate like your mental, your emotional health and trauma, and you can all like merge it all together. And you have to compartmentalize it, right? Because some of that stuff might be coming from those places of trauma. When you study trauma and you've experienced trauma, they usually come out in some of the ways that he has spoken about it. For me, man, if I didn't have the Celtics and my teammates and my family to help me get through that, and my spat lasted probably about a 2-3 week window where I made some extreme decisions. I decided to retire. There was a whole bunch of different things that I kind of went through, but the Celtics were there to help guide me. They saw me. They, Doc came to visit me while I was in the hospital. Danny Ainge went to see my family when I was in the hospital. And, when you see it brewing like that, man, like sometimes love, compassion, and care is like can help you get through that a little bit faster. But also like, I wasn't really on social media and things like that, right? Because if I would have been on social media during like my moment, like that could have been ugly as well. And so like, it's a lesson, for these youngsters, man, like sometimes you gotta like peace be still, right? This business, man, it's not easy, right? You think money makes all your problems go away. But what I heard is a guy who, felt lonely, felt ignored. He's been going through, issues in his body after being a top 5 pick. And all rookie, like, career-wise, that hasn't worked out, right? And then you pile on, like, some of the things that may have happened in his childhood that he spoke about, and those things are maybe coming out, right? Progressively over time. And so, like, I dig it. I understand it. I've been through something very similar to it, so I'm very sympathetic to the situation. But I'm also accountable about it, right? When you bring it to the workplace, this can potentially happen. He's still a young man. I think he can rebound from it, heal from it. I think, the silence may be good for him, but he has to, take a couple steps after that, right? Stay rooted in your faith, right? And, God ultimately is love, right? And if you lead with love and not judgment, you'll get more, you can show that behavior better. And then two, he really needs to consider, getting some wellness, some mental health and therapy so that he can unpack some of those things in a private session, without the public, without the phone, without anybody hearing that. You got to go through those emotions internally so that you can recognize them, understand them, and grow from them. And so, yeah, man, I think he'll be all right eventually. But my prayers go out for him.
Yeah. Do you think that he plays in the NBA ever again? Because the one thing is having views or doing something that is detrimental to the team that you're with, the franchise that you're with, but going after, NBA brass, going after the top, basically, going after icons of the game, LeBron, Steph Curry, the way that he did. Do you think that there's any coming back from that? Do you think we see Jaden Ivey in an NBA locker room ever again?
I mean, it's possible. It just really depends on like his recovery and how he comes out of the other side of this. Everybody has their own path and their own quest, their own destiny. So you go through these tests to get a part of your testimony, right? And look, he's a talented individual. He's just been hurt, right? Does he come back from it? I think that sports is a place where you do get second chances. There's been people who have done, worse things, and it's not like a ranking system on like, what kind of mistake that you made, but he didn't do anything illegal. So
no physical
with that being
harm,
said,
no violence.
With that being said, how he handles it and how he projects himself moving forward and being able to talk through that process, maybe he can advocate, around mental health and faith. Right. And how you bring them all together, because, with spiritual warfare, a lot of times people might not understand that. So I don't want to go too deep, too far and talk too much about it. But I see a quality young man right there who's just kind of going through a heightened situation. And these things can be temporary if you get the right help and the right infrastructure around you, or they could be permanent if you don't, and you can spiral out of control.
Wemby went crazy last night. I got a stat for you. You ready? At 22 years old and 87 days old, Wemby has become the youngest player in NBA history with a 40.15 rebound game in consecutive games. Like, what else can we say? We've talked all year about Wemby, about his greatness, about his drive, about his love for the game, about his defense, about his offense, about his teammates, about his leadership, about his. We continue to go on and on and on about Wemby. But, like, it seems like every time we think he hits a ceiling, he breaks that ceiling to another ceiling that we didn't even know existed.
Man, he's like Lil Wayne's mixtapes. He's got no ceilings.
No ceilings.
Like he can really, he can really like be as great as his body allows him. Obviously he's got the will, he's got the skill set, he's got the talent. He's got all the intangibles that you can coach, and then he's got these special talents that like you can't coach 7'5" with that kind of agility with a jump shot, who has that kind of motor. So he's almost like becoming like the best created player, that we've ever aesthetically seen.
16 of 22 from the floor, 18 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks. Again, and the Spurs win their 10th straight game. They've improved to 26-2 in their last 28 games. So there's that. But last night they were also playing the G League Warriors, the Santa Cruz Warriors. They had some guys in the squad that I had never even heard of before. Omar Yetservin even got some minutes, former Miami Heat player. But there's a lot of guys that were not up to NBA standards, I would imagine. We talk about the NBA MVP race, and it feels like SGA is by far the favorite, right? Like right now in sportsbooks, he's about minus 300 to be the back-to-back MVP. But what else does Wemby, and I'll state this case for you here. What else does Wemby need to do? What else does Luka need to do to garner more MVP votes? Because Luka, I saw this stat yesterday. We said it on the Le Batard show yesterday. Luka had more points in March than Anthony Davis had as a Maverick. Let me repeat that. Luka Doncic had more points in the month of March for the Lakers than Anthony Davis had his entire tenure with the Dallas Mavericks.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, hey, looks like the Mavericks, boy, did they get that wrong. They got that one wrong. But as far as your first question, man, like what more can those guys do? I really don't know. Individually, like they're putting up numbers, they're playing at an extremely high level. They're improving in areas that like are a little bit unlikely. Like I'm seeing Luka play more defense, get his hands on balls. I even saw Luka get up the other day and throw that thing down. He had to laugh at himself. But it goes back to the point we talked about, over the last few episodes, buddy. And that's like, is this an individual award or a team award? Right? Because statistically speaking, there's guys who are right there, if not equal, like better than SGA statistically, right? And the thing I feel like that makes him the favorite is one, he won it last year, and two, his team has the best record in the NBA. But if you're just going by the numbers and things like that, man, it's possible. It's possible that somebody else should win the award.
He talked about the other day, and I think it was here in Miami, he talked about, hey, defense is half of the game. Right? Offense is not the only part of the game that matters. Defense also matters. But you look at Luka and what he's able to do offensively and what he means for the Lakers. You look at even what Jokic is doing, which, again, I feel like I've been very consistent as far as the Jokic love. This season, I feel like I've been the guy on this show, on the Le Batard show, whatever, saying, hey, Jokic is having a better season now than any other season he's won MVP. And he continues to do so, triple-double, night in, night out, 15, 17, and 15 or whatever he had last night. Jamal Murray hits 10 threes. Like, they're a team that is very dangerous, and he gets zero love whatsoever. And we've talked about, and you said it, if the NBA wants to get new faces into the MVP race, then you have Luka, who has been the best player on the planet, not named Wemby, for the entire month of March, who's had, I think he had over 600 points in the month of March, which is absolutely insane. It just feels like there's a block there that historically think about this. What was a guy growing up, or maybe when you were in the NBA, that never was able to get the love and admiration from an MVP standpoint because there was guys that just had better seasons year in and year out that the voters wanted to give the MVP to more, right? Like, because Luka, like, what else does Luka have to do to win the MVP? In any other season, Luka would be the odds-on favorite by far to win MVP. The problem is he's got Wemby in front of him, who's 28-2 in their last 30 or whatever it is, and an SGA who's playing out of his mind also.
Yeah, I think maybe the writers in the NBA and whoever gets the vote, they shouldn't reinvent the wheel. They should state the status quo on what it is they've been doing historically. And the reason why I say that is because they diversified the MVPs that we had, which ultimately helped boost the game, helped boost their resumes, helped those guys become Hall of Famers. Because like at the height, the best players could win it every year. Sometimes they had to give it to Barkley just because you didn't want to give them all to Jordan. Sometimes they had to give them to, whoever it was, at the particular time. LeBron could have been, a more time MVP. Shaq could have had more. Kobe could have had more, right? And so they had to diversify it. So in that breath, I think they should continue to do that and reward some of these guys for having tremendous individual seasons and not just factor in the best record, the best player on the best team.
That's the thing. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. It's the MVP, not the MVT. If it's the most valuable team, okay, I get it. Hey, yeah, the Thunder have had more guys on the bench all season, which I think is a product of what people are talking about when SGA is the lead favorite. Is J-Dub's been hurt, Holmgren's been hurt. You pick whoever it is on that team: Caruso, Dort, Cason Wallace, Hartenstein, AJ Mitchell, McCain, like whoever you want. Pick whoever you want on that OKC team. They've been hurt. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. He's the one guy outside of the 12 games or so that he missed, or 13 games in the middle of February that he missed. He's the one guy that has been the stalwart on that team night in and night out. When we thought they were going to win 80 games, when we thought they were going to win 79 games or whatever it was, he's been the guy that's been the driving force behind that. And I just don't know if we're ever going to have a season in which we see what Wemby's doing, what Luka is doing, and what Jokic is doing, and them not win MVP whatsoever.
Yeah, I really would like to see a new MVP this year, personally.
Wemby or Luka? I put that to you. Wemby or Luka? Who would you give it to if we're doing new face of the MVP?
You know what? I think I would give Wemby the edge.
Really?
And I know that. Yes, I think I would. Just because like how he's dominating the game on both ends of the floor, and I don't weigh offense and defense equally. Right, you don't become a max player by being a lockdown defender, right?
Correct.
So I don't think the game is 50-50, right? But maybe 65-35, 60-40, whatever you want to call it. But the offensive end to me is more important, right? Defense is usually like everybody can't go out and score and dominate the game offensively like that. You can have a work ethic and tenacity or toughness and be a good defender. So I just would say that I think if I had to pick between the two, I would go with Wemby over Luka.
So Wemby would go MVP and then Depoy too, because he's the best defender in the world.
Yeah.
So he'd sweep MVP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Absolutely, and well deserved, man. I mean, look, he's gone through injuries throughout this season as well, and he's bounced back, right? And we can't take for granted how long we're going to have these guys. They don't necessarily Luka, Wemby, it's no guarantee that they'll be around for the next 10 years, right? We've had guys, who were superstar players and their careers were cut short to injuries, or they were different from who they are right now, like Embiid. So it's no guarantee. So when those guys put themselves in position to earn the awards, right? However they're balancing it out, however they're running the numbers to come to that conclusion, if they're just using the eye test, I would love to see one of those guys win the MVP this year.
Yeah, and to take the Luka side of it, in the biggest market in the NBA, in a season that started in turmoil with the I don't want to say the ghost because he's still there, but the shadow of LeBron James's potential final season, second to final season. Is he going to be with the Lakers? Is he not? Just that kind of shadow that's being cast on the organization with a supporting cast that isn't that good. We can all agree. Outside of the three, Luka, AR, and LeBron, the team's not that good. That's a team that would be headed to the lottery if those guys weren't on that squad. With all that said, what Luka's been able to do basically single-handedly, averaging a near triple-double, right? He's averaging like 36, 8, and 8, right? Like an insane season, a Michael Jordan-esque season that we would see from MJ. And what he's been able to do with the weight of the world and the weight of the franchise on his shoulders when he was traded because they thought that he wasn't going to be sustainable enough long-term to be a Dallas Maverick, but they chose Anthony Davis, who they thought was going to be sustainable long-term to be a Dallas Maverick, who's now a Washington Wizard. So with all that, Luka goes out in the midst of an ugly custody battle with his kids, continues to be the best offensive player in the world night in and night out at a level that 60, 50, 42, had 42 the other night against Cleveland. His offensive bag is the best we've ever seen. His ability to get to the hoop, his ability to finish through contact, his ability to create contact and then pass out of it, all of these different things that we've been told, hey, this is what the number one offensive player in the world looks like. He's got it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And his defense has gotten better. He's more competitive. He's in better shape. Like being around LeBron has really, really helped him. And you're starting to see that. You're starting to see it in his mindset, right? You're starting to see him complain a little less. Like I would not be mad if Wemby or Luka got it this year. I would prefer one of those guys get it this year. I just feel like, they should be rewarded because there's no guarantee we'll have them another umpteen years.
But with that, it's like the league is in a good place when you've got 4 guys that could be the MVP under 32 years old.
Yeah.
And
especially
one guy at
with
22.
the way these guys are training and staying in conditioning now, like, those guys are like, they got a blueprint, man. Like LeBron has kind of set a blueprint, that hasn't been replicated maybe since like Robert Parrish.
The Chief. 31. Jokic is 31.
31.
So,
okay.
Yeah. 4
32.
MVP candidates under 32. One guy under 25, which is insane.
Man. Unbelievable.
Insane. All right, everybody's talking about the playoffs. Everybody's talking about the play-in. I want to talk about the teams that we feel best and worst about, kind of in the middle tiers of the two conferences. We only got a couple minutes here, so okay. I want to go through. I feel the best about the Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
And I feel like that's an easy take because they've been great for the last 20 games or whatever. Mm-hmm. But what they're building in Atlanta, KD, I feel like you can back me up on this, knowing Quinn Snyder, knowing the system, knowing the players involved. When you got Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, the vet CJ McCollum, like when you add all these pieces together, I feel like there's a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference that are not going to want to see the Atlanta Hawks come playoff times, especially the Cleveland Cavaliers if they stick with the 4-5 matchup.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think Atlanta is the most dangerous of those middle-of-the-pack teams in the East. But also, like, as Philly gets healthier, right, they're a team that, like, if they're clicking on all cylinders, they're a very dangerous team, too, over in the East. But I totally agree with you, man. I think Atlanta right now, they're clicking on all cylinders. And nobody.
Who's the team that you're looking at in the Eastern Conference and you're like, they don't have the juice this year? And I feel like this is a team that you predicted at the beginning of the year was a dark horse team for you. For me, I feel like the Toronto Raptors just have no juice at the moment.
Yeah. Well, they had some juice the other night when they went on their 31-0 run.
Yeah,
right?
Did against the Magic, who also have no juice at the moment also.
Yeah, but, it's something missing over there, right? I don't know what it is. I can't necessarily put my finger on it, but it's something that's missing, with that team. I think they got a lot of really good players. I just don't think they don't have like great players, right? I think, BI is of course like, Cole, right?
All-star.
RJ Barrett is still solid, right? Still a good player. Like they have a lot of good players, but I just don't think those guys are superstars because I think that's rare air. It's not a lot of superstars in the league. Even if you're a max, there's some guys who are max players who aren't superstars. Superstars is a whole different level.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I look at those, and I feel the same way about Paulo Banchero and Desmond Bane and them in Orlando. Right? There's good individual pieces, and Banchero's a great scorer and has been better efficiently the last couple of weeks, but Orlando's not a team that I'm fearing come playoff time. If they make it out of the play-in, they're not a team I'm looking at in the 7-2 matchup that's going to give Boston an issue. Like, Boston's going to roll them, especially the way that Jaden Tatum, what happened last night at the Kaseya Center, the Heat got that ass spanked.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The Heat, man, they're struggling. And they go up and down because that's the waves that you have to ride, when you don't have a superstar player.
Right.
Like they just, they're another team that they have a lot of good players, but just not great players. Even with the 83-point game that Bam had, like, it's hard to replicate that every night. I would rather see him get, 25, 28 a night, than have that go-off game and then kind of go back to being, this version of him. But, he'll get better.
Everybody in the Western Conference is already locked in. Who's the team that you feel best about outside of OKC and San Antonio?
I think the two teams that are scary for me, who I would not necessarily want to have to see in the first round, is the Nuggets and the Lakers. Like, those two teams, to me, like, they're dangerous. Obviously, they have experience, they have the star power. They have champions on both of those teams. Like, those teams are dangerous to me. If you talk about the West. The Clippers, man, they're playing pretty good basketball. Like, they had a stretch, earlier in the season after the All-Star break where they were playing, like, great basketball. But I'm not so much afraid of them. Like, the Lakers in the playoffs, I think that's a dangerous matchup for a lot of people, especially when they're the underdogs, and the same with the Nuggets.
Yeah, Darius Garland's been playing great for the Clippers.
He's nice.
Portland's another interesting team. They got good pieces, Advia, Klingon. Like, they've got some stuff working in Portland. It's going to take them a lot to be noticeable in the Western Conference just because there's so many stacked teams in the Western Conference. And obviously, we haven't seen Steph Curry in 2 months, 3 months. How long has it been since we've seen Steph, where Golden State's been locked into a play-in berth? Because listen to the bottom of the Western Conference. New Orleans eliminated, Memphis eliminated, Dallas eliminated, Utah eliminated, Sacramento eliminated. They clinched a playoff berth without really doing anything. Golden State's been 4-6 their last 10 games and already reached a play-in berth. It's insane. The team I'd say that in the middle of the pack that I'm most intrigued by is, I want to say, the Houston Rockets, man. And I know they don't have a traditional point guard. I know that's gonna be a hindrance to them in the playoffs, especially when things get fast in the playoffs. Even though the game is slowed down, the pace and just the way that the game moves, if you don't have a veteran point guard that can slow down, hey, there's been a 12-2 run, like, let me slow this down. Let's get in our sets. Let's get in our offense. Let's work. Let's listen to what coach has to say, but has the intangible of, all right, I know how to make this game play a little bit slower. Reed Shepherd has been playing great.
Yeah, 9 threes last night, I believe.
Like Reed Shepherd, I know he's not a traditional point guard. I know he's not the guy that you're going to want with the ball in your hands at, crucial points in the game. You want to probably give that up to KD. Maybe Thompson to create a little bit for himself, Şengün. But the Rockets have all of the pieces needed to be a player in the West. They're just that point guard of the way. But if KD gets hot, if Şengün can get his bucket on anybody, like, now we're talking about a very interesting team in that 4-5 matchup. If they're playing, I don't think they'd beat Denver, but they can give them a fight for their money.
Yeah, of course they can. I mean, anytime you got Kevin Durant on the team, you got an opportunity to win, in my opinion. But yeah, I just don't see it for the Rockets. I just don't feel like they're good enough defensively. I think Reed Shepherd is growing, right? He's getting better and better each month, each game. Personally, he had 9 threes last night. He's got a real nice floor game, and then he's got a motor. I saw him block a shot the other night on the hustle play, which was unbelievable. But I just like the way that team is built defensively. I just don't think they have enough firepower to overcompensate for their lack of defense.
Yeah. Minnesota sitting there at 6-2. That's a team that I don't know if the Lakers want to see in that 3-6 matchup.
Styles make fights. Yeah, styles make fights, and Ant-Man loves the lights, especially in the big cities. But like, I think with Luka on the squad now, like, it's not so much pressure on LeBron. I think Austin Reeves is, trying to prove that he's a max player. Man, Jackson Hayes has been really stepping up as a lob
Mhm.
threat and blocking shots and rebounding. Ayton has kind of bought into his role. Marcus
Yep.
Smart brings a lot of, intangibles to the team. This year, I would actually take the Lakers, over Minnesota. I think Minnesota has regressed. I don't think they're as good as they once were. Even though some of those young kids, who they made the trades for, are playing good basketball, I just don't think they are the team that they once was.
All right, KD, the play-in games start April 14th through the 17th, so we've got the NBA playoffs knocking on the door, and a lot of these questions are going to be answered coming up late April and May into June until we crown an NBA champion, man. I'm ready for the playoffs because that's when basketball gets real, KD.
Absolutely. And it's been fun, man. It's been fun. This last part of the season has been amazing.
A lot of good stuff. Really quick, before we go, Final Four, we got UConn, Illinois. We got Michigan, Arizona. Saturday. We won't be on until Monday. I think the national championship is on Monday, so we'll know who's playing at that point. Who you got in the Final Four, real quick?
Yep. So I got Michigan over Arizona, and I got UConn over Illinois.
All right, we're locked then. I like the same thing, which is not good because your picks have been terrible.
I know. You should have maybe gone opposite, champ.
All right, give me Arizona and Illinois for your championship on Monday night. KD, appreciate you, man.
All right, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
Welcome to the crossover. Keon Doolin, 10-day tuning. Let's talk NBA.